The purpose of this presentation is to introduce an analysis of human development on the topic of investigative psychology. This may be of interest, but not limited, to law enforcement, criminologists, social workers, counselors, parents, and others. The following will examine biological processes that contribute to the development of deviant behavior. Subsequent videos will complement this topic by going over cognitive and social factors. Cognitive development will be considered in terms of Piaget's theories, cognitive bias, and the hierarchical organization of cognition. The influence of social development will focus on social learning, cross-cultural views, and Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Each factor will have its own video, so this is a three-part series. First, we will look at the biological or physiological factor. The development of the brain and presence of inherited traits will be looked at first, since it is the precursor to all other developmental processes. The framework that follows will allow for a thorough understanding of the individual developmental process that describes the patterns that exist in the individual lifespan. Genetics and brain development research can be used to understand the biological sources of criminal deviant behavior. The genetic material that a person inherits is made up of 23 pairs of chromosomes called the genotype. A person's phenotype is the expression of the genotype consisting of individual characteristics and psychological traits that are observable. The field of behavioral genetics is used to determine what differences are present in those with abnormal tendencies. For example, in one study it was found that the variation of a dopamine transmitter gene predicted male adolescents' association with antisocial peer groups. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter associated with psychological disorders including schizophrenia. If you are not familiar with neurotransmitters, they are the chemicals that carry information between neuron cells throughout the nervous system in the form of electrical impulses. You can think of them as chemical messengers that guide thoughts and emotions. An imbalance in the level of these transmissions can lead to behavioral and emotional disorders. There are dozens of neurotransmitters and each carries a specific function and set of problems associated with an imbalance. Therefore, the importance of studies that correlate behaviors with a genetic factor related to neurotransmitter genes is that a predictable or at least detectable cause is present. During prenatal development, agents that cause birth defects or changes, called teratogens, can alter cognitive and behavioral functioning. Teratogens can be anything in the developmental environment from pollution to foods and drugs. In fact, there is a long and growing list of medications that are known teratogens, some more severe than others. The type and timing of exposure of a teratogen is of interest when analyzing possible effects on brain development. By the 8th week of prenatal development, the brain is rapidly creating neuronal connections. Prenatal teratogens exposure of alcohol and various illegal drugs during this time of brain development has been linked to cognitive deficits and behavioral problems. Therefore, it is possible to understand how factors in brain development could determine lasting traits. Abnormalities in brain function and structure have been cited in neurobiological studies as a path of origin that can lead to dysfunctional and criminal behavior. Brain imaging on criminal psychopaths confirm a lack of activation on the prefrontal and temporal regions during cognitive emotional tasks. This is meaningful because they are the regions of the brain involved in specific emotions that psychopaths are known to lack, such as empathy and remorse. To summarize this first video on the physiological factor in investigative psychology, we have gone over genetics, neurotransmitters, and prenatal development. These are three of the main biological causes for abnormal behaviors. It is important to note that these are not the only ones, and in the future, I'll dive deeper into other factors including stress, health, nutrition, and others. Stay tuned for part 2 of this topic, which will focus on cognitive factors.